when I was closing on my second offer, which was a dating offer, I would deal with a lot of guys who had a lot of ego because the offer was helping men that were very successful men financially, helping them to attract a dream partner, build their confidence, go out and like talk to women and all that shit. And when I first got on the offer, I got destroyed a lot of times by prospects who had a lot of ego and who just appeared like they didn't want to be helped. And until I got very good at sales for a while, I was very lost when I had these difficult prospects. And I lost a lot of money because I had dealt with difficult prospects. I know that some of you watching this are on trading offers, some of you are on ecomm offers, some of you are on tax offers. Like there's a whole bunch of different offers in the industry where you're dealing with prospects that have a lot of ego, prospects that may appear like they don't want to be helped. And that's what I dealt with. It seemed like a lot of the people that were coming onto these calls had some kind of barrier and just like didn't come onto the call with the intention of wanting to make a change, wanting to be in a better position, which later on I realized was not the case, and I'm going to share that with you here. I'm going to explain to you in this training how to handle prospects who appear to or definitely have a lot of ego and who are very difficult and seem like they're a hard sell. We're going to go deep in this one. I've prepared like a lot of sauce for you guys here to help you make a bunch of money. This video alone can give you an extra grand to $2,000 in comms every single month, because what's interesting is 10 to 20% of your prospects are going to be difficult people. That's just on any offer that you're on. Sometimes it's going to be more, but generally on any offer, like you low, like very low end, if you have a crazy good offer with crazy good marketing where you have to do nothing, no work at all, maybe 5%, but generally you're going to see 10 to 20% of prospects are going to have some kind of ego. For me on the dating offer, it was probably maybe 30% I was getting, where guys would appear like they didn't have a problem. They'd be acting all tough, kind of like I don't need help, and all that shit. And it was hard for me to close. It was hard for me to close these guys, and every single time I would get a guy like that I didn't close, I was losing money. Same thing for you. If you're getting people like this on your calls, even if it's not all the time, if you're missing out on that extra, let's say 5 sales per month that you could bring in, out of your however many closes that you get, if there's an extra 3 to 5 that you could be getting, and you're making on average, let's say 500 incomes per close, which is not a lot, but let's say up front you get 500 minimum, give or take. That's an extra, you do the math, 1,500 to 2,500 you're leaving in comms. And I'm sure there's other things to work on too. So this is going to help you make a bunch more money, and I'm going to explain just what I did and how I did it to really like make way more money as a closer by handling these prospects who had ego. The first thing I want to look at that's going to help you, we have to establish a baseline of commonality here. We have to establish that we're talking about and saying the same thing. So by ego, what I mean is I want to make sure we understand each other here before I train you. Well, this is the training, but I want to make sure that we're starting off on the same place. So by ego, what I mean is someone who comes onto a call and they have an attitude of, I don't want to fall into a frame of I need to be helped. Okay, that's the kind of person I'm talking about. Someone who comes into a call, they get on a sales call with you. It doesn't even mean they're a bad person, but it doesn't even mean they're acting like an asshole. Don't add emotion into what I'm saying. All I'm saying is you get a prospect who comes onto a call and it appears to some extent, in some way, that they feel, it seems like they don't need to be helped. The way that they're communicating, the way they're talking is very casual. It's very like, by casual, I don't mean that it's a good conversation. I'm talking about they're not very serious about it. They're kind of like, oh, I could take it or leave it. That's what I mean by ego. Okay, it's they're breaking the frame, and we're going to get more into frames later in this training. I'm going to talk a lot to you actually about frames, but they're breaking the frame of I need help. I need to make some kind of change. I want to be in a better position. Okay, that's the kind of person that I'm talking about. What's very important is, as a sales professional, you can't fall into this frame that the prospect might try to set. So if the prospect is setting a frame for you, a frame to you of I don't need help, and they're communicating as someone who doesn't need help, it's extremely important. This is where you're going to make your money. It's very important that you don't fall into this frame with them. And this is the mistake that I see a lot of sales pros make, where especially sales pros who are not like very good and are still, working on their craft, working on their game, like the people we train oftentimes. What I've seen is a lot of sales pros just let these standards go, right? So you have some dude on a call, or lady, whatever, who comes on and they're talking about how everything is going well. They're in a good position. It seems like they don't need help. And the sales pro, I watched lots of these calls, by the way, and I used to be this person myself. I'm speaking as much to my former self, by the way, as I am to you before I got really good. I would let those things go and I wouldn't address them, which means that now for the rest of the call, I've accepted this frame that the prospect has set of I don't need help, which is inherently ego driven. You have to understand that people are going to pay thousands to solve a problem. And the key word here is not people will pay thousands, because you already know that. You've probably closed deals. You know that people will pay money for things, but understand the key word in that sentence is problem. So if you're not getting your prospects to recognize, or at least they may have already recognized it, but to open up and have a conversation and a dialogue about them having a problem that needs to be solved, if you're not getting to that point with them, odds are that your closing rate, your closing skill set, or your money, your income is going to take a hit, because people will at scale consistently, which means you get, let's say, 50 to 70 calls in a month or more. People are paying thousands of dollars because they want to solve a problem, right? People are paying, they're going to give you 5K, they're going to give you 10K, they're going to give you a 20K to solve a problem. So if on the sales call, you're not having a conversation with them around their problems, and you've allowed their ego to do the talking and for them to get away with appearing as if they don't have a big issue or don't have a problem, well, you're not going to be in a good position, because again, people pay to solve problems. So what you're experiencing on your calls, there are specifically 3 kinds of ego that we're going to train on here. There's 3 types of ego, or 3 types of, I called it ego in my notes, but there's probably a better way I could explain this. There's 3 kinds of frames, 3 kinds of misconceptions or belief systems, whatever we'd call it, 3 things that we need to break from a prospect, like 3 versions of a prospect you're going to get that are not ideal for your calls. Does that make sense? So I hope you're with me. There's 3 kinds of prospects, 3 kinds of energy, 3 types of egos that you're going to get on calls, and you cannot let these things go. And I'm going to break them down one at a time, and then we'll go into training on like how to actually deal with them and how to freaking make a bunch of money. And if you really lock in, I'm not trying to convince you to stay here for like the watch time. That would help, sure, bigger watch time. But I'm telling you, like, this is going to be some of the best training you'll see for free on YouTube when it comes to sales. No one else is talking about this stuff. So we're going to go real deep here. So there's 3 kinds of ego. If your attention span can handle it, of course, then we'll go deep. 3 kinds of ego, okay? So the first one is what we call problem avoidance. Problem avoidance means the prospect, and you need to learn how to listen to these and hear them. Problem avoidance means the prospect is communicating the idea of the problem I have isn't so bad. Okay, that's problem avoidance. That's the first kind of ego you're going to experience. And what this could mean is like a prospect saying, let's say you're on a trading offer, and you ask them, so what do you feel has like been holding you back? And the prospect's like, well, I've done pretty well recently. I'm not, I don't think that, I'm in such a bad place. I think that there's a lot of potential. Boom. There we go. Their ego speaking now. I don't think I'm in such a bad place. I'm doing all right. I would get this on the dating offer. I would say, so like when it comes to dating, tell me what's been happening recently. What have you done to try to, connect with more women and just have a better dating life, or, have more freedom there? What's the response I'd be getting? Like from some ego-based guys. Well, I am happy. There we go. I am happy. I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I am happy. I'm getting prospects saying like the problem isn't terrible, right? We're not in a terrible place. And then the other one we have is results denial. So it's similar to the problem avoidance, but it's a little different. Results denial is saying I'm not doing bad personally. So problem avoidance is saying the problem I'm experiencing isn't so bad, right? So you get this a lot when you say, if you're using our scripting, of course, depends on where you're learning your sales from. But if you're using the scripting we have, it's what do you feel is like kind of holding you back right now? What's the thing stopping you? And if they're like, hey, what's stopping me isn't such a bad thing, there we go, that's problem avoidance. Results denial is I'm not doing that bad, right? So again, I kind of gave a similar example of that just now, but they're slightly different. On my dating offer, because there I got so many prospects with ego, I'd get a lot of guys talking about how they had made a bunch of money, and then they'd say, I kind of know what I'm doing. It's just these girls are whack. I'm not saying that like this is not me speaking, this is the prospects. They would be like, the girls out here are whack, right? So there we go. They're saying they're not doing bad, but it's like on the women, nah, bro. Let's not blame the women here for your inability to have the dating life you want, right? Or you get on ecomm. Let's say you're running an ecomm offer where people are trading, or excuse me, not trading. That's trading offer. An ecomm offer where people are building ecomm businesses, and you ask someone, so I guess why has the growth been so slow? And they're like, well, it definitely could be going faster, but we've seen some growth in terms of our ads. Those are actually performing really well, and we've seen a lot of growth there. Nope. I didn't ask you that. I said, why are you not doing well, and what's stopping you? What's holding you back? What's the problem? So that's what we call results denial, where the prospect is like, I'm not doing that bad. And you need to learn to recognize this in conversations, recognize this in your calls, recognize this if you're role playing. Like, you need to recognize this and train on it, because if you train on it, you can defeat it. If you train on it, you can beat it, right? That's how you get better at this game. And then we have the other one, the third one, which I call breaking frame. It's where the prospect is communicating from the perspective of like, I just came here for information. We don't want that either. That's unacceptable. I just came here for information. I just came here to find out more about what you do. You hear that a lot too, where again, it's subtle in the language. They're like, yeah, I just saw what you guys do from the ad. It seems like you do some pretty cool stuff. So I thought, why not just have a conversation? Nope. Hell no, we're not doing that, because you didn't come here to just have a little conversation with me, bro. You came here because you have a problem that we're going to fucking talk about, and we're going to try to come up with a solution. And if you feel like we can help, you're going to fork over, yeah, I'll say it here on YouTube, you're going to fork over 9.8K to solve your problem. And we're not doing anything else other than that. You can give me BS if you want, but I'm just not doing the call. That's the energy that I have on my calls, right? And again, I'm not going to communicate all of this in that exact way, to be clear. I'm going to give you the tools that I use to communicate this in a very smooth way, which is where you end up making a bunch of money. But these are the three kinds of ego. So you get problem avoidance, you get results denial, you get breaking frame. Those are the three, right? Problem avoidance, results denial, and breaking frame. Now, let's get into training. How do you actually break through someone's ego? This is the hard part. This is where things get fun, things get a little interesting. So the first thing I need you to do in order to break through someone's ego and really close at a very high level, make a bunch of money for yourself, for your family, for your future, like that's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for freedom. We're not doing this to fucking nerd out over sales. We're doing this for freedom because we want to change our lives and we want to help other people change their lives. The clients the people we close, and bring value to companies, because hey, I love companies. I love building businesses, and I'm sure if you're in make money online, you should love the company as well. That's how I see it. I'm not like, fuck the company. That's a 9-to-5er's mindset. You're not a cog in a machine. You're building. You're a piece of an organization that's that's not in the machine, right? So let's look at this. So the first thing we need to do is understand that understand what the ego is, so we can identify it and know what you're working with. The ego is who someone wants you to believe that they are, because they believe that that's who they need to be. Does that make sense? I'm going to say it exactly the way I said it again, and then I'll train you on it. So the ego, as I see it in sales, this is based off the psychological definition. I believe it's from Freudian psychology, who generally created the construct of teaching about the ego, the self, the id, the alter ego, or is it called the alter ego, super ego? Something like that. I used to be all into that shit. Now it's just like sales, sales, sales. But the ego, again, so we're clear what we're working with here, the ego is who someone wants you to believe that they are. Okay, so the ego is the person's like, I need you, talking to you as a sales pro, I need you to believe that I'm this person, because they believe that that's who they need to be, right? So I'll keep using my dating offer, because this is where I learned a lot of this stuff, just every day taking on like 5+ calls on a dating offer with prospects that, like, again, had a high level of ego, had a high level of, hey, I don't need help because I made money as a lawyer, as a doctor, I'm good, right? Not everyone had that, but a lot of them did, a lot of ego. So what would happen is I would get a dude, let's say you get some guy, I would talk to like a guy. I remember one of the guys, I didn't close this guy actually. He ended up getting closed by the sales manager at the time, who's amazing. Shout out Lynn, who taught me so much about like mindset and sales. She was great. Co-founder of the company as well. So what's interesting is I remember this guy, we'll call him John. For now, we'll call him John. So he was a 65-year-old lawyer. Dude was like close to retiring. He had made hundreds of thousands like per year, millions. He was I think a junior partner or a partner in a firm, something. A very successful lawyer in New York, actually. Got on the offer. Got on the call with me. Dude is just kind of leaned back in his chair, super sick office. Like clearly you could tell the guy's like making money. It was very obvious. Leaned back in his chair, very confident attitude. And we began talking about dating. I said, so what do you feel is holding you back? And he was like, well, honestly, man, I've done a lot in my life. I'm acting like him. I've done a lot in my life. I've accomplished a lot. And I understand how to put myself out there. I understand really, really what's needed to have success. I understand it. I get it. Ego. He's creating a barrier so that before he gets to what the problem is, he's already created a construct that he thinks I'm going to buy into, which I did on the call. And I learned so much from this call. And he believes that it's going to create a construct in my head of who I'm going to perceive him to be as this confident guy who really doesn't need help, but is just here, hey, for some information. Because in his mind, who he needs to be is that guy. He needs the world to see him as that person, right? That's what he's told himself. And hey, it's not a problem. It's just on a sales call, I can't play ball with that because I need him to admit he has a problem and make a purchase because of that problem that he admitted. Okay, here's the rules we're going to operate under. Here's how you fix it. Here's how you handle it. You can't beat the ego. You can't destroy it. You can't beat someone's ego. You can't do it. Beat. It depends on what you mean by that. But generally, you're not going to beat someone's ego. You're not their coach. You're not their mindset coach. You're not their mentor. You're not their accountability partner. You're going to talk to them for a fucking hour. You're going to take their money and you're never going to talk to them again. Most likely. Like, that's what you're doing in sales, right? You're not going to beat someone's ego. But, you can snap them out of an egoic mindset on a call. You can do that. And you can do it temporarily. You're not going to supersede someone's ego and have them have this moment of clarity where they like surrender to the journey and they become this different person. You're not going to do that. That's not, we're not even trying to really do that on a sales call. You're not trying to do that. All I'm trying to do is do the bare minimum to get this person to pay the company. That's all I'm doing. And it sounds crazy maybe, or it sounds calloused, but as a sales pro, that is your job. That is your responsibility. What I'm trying to do is do the bare minimum on my call. Doesn't mean that I don't want to go above and beyond as a closer in general, but on each individual sales call, I don't want to exert energy to try to battle this person, to try to win over them, none of that. I just need to snap them out of the egoic mindset that they're coming from and get them to operate under a new set of rules just for the call. Hopefully that's clear to you. I'm not going to explain it anymore. Hopefully you understand that. And I want to do that temporarily. So it doesn't mean, I hope that my camera didn't shut off. There was a bit of an error on my computer just now. So I think we're still going though. I see it here. So that doesn't mean that I need them to, again, be this completely different person. All I need is for 1 hour, them to play ball. That's it. Nothing else. I just need them to play ball for like an hour, right? And have them make a buying decision under this new frame. So essentially what you're doing is you're basically telling them, hey, let's speak to the real you, not your ego. That's what you're telling them. Hey, let's talk to the real version of you who could be transparent, who could be honest with me. I don't want to talk to your ego. Does that make sense? That's how you're going to snap someone out of their ego and you're going to close them and you're going to make a bunch of money and have a bunch of freedom. That's what's going to happen. Now, how do you do this? Because this is the key. Like, what's the how? Okay. There's 3 tools, I'd say 2 tools really, but the last one is like, A and B kind of. So there's a few tools you can use to make this happen. And then I'm going to get into something called framing, which is really, really powerful in a second. I'll get into framing. You're going to love this. If you love the game and you want to be good and make like way more money, you're going to love framing. That's hugely powerful. But here's how you snap someone out of the ego and how you have them operate not under the egoic set of rules. Number 1 is what we call give and take. Okay, give and take is I will speak to someone's ego because I want to take it off the table. So I'm going to speak to their ego and I'm going to recognize and almost admit and kind of throw my hands up in defeat, kind of, like who they want to be and who they believe that they should be for me on this call and who they want the world to see them as, right? So as an example, with this guy, John, that I had in the sales call, if I want him to admit his problems, which I actually did this part quite well because I learned how to do this when I was teaching dating. I learned how to do this with women because women have a lot of ego when they date as well, very high quality women, like models and high status type of girls. So I had to learn this with them. And translating it into sales is actually way easier, believe it or not, than doing it with women who are very high status and have a lot of ego. It's way harder with girls. Anyway, so with this guy John, and other calls like this, people I've talked to on other offers, similar offer, the dating offer, closing at a high level, the way it would sound would be, let's say a response to him would be, dude, it's actually pretty cool that you've done all this in your life. What's really interesting is the thing that's missing though is the intimacy and like the love and the connection. What's going on there and why do you feel like that's the thing that's missing? Because you have done everything else and you seem like you are decently accomplished, which is great. But what's missing when it comes to the dating stuff? What's holding you back there? Because something's not adding up. Right, so what I've done is in that statement, it's very subtle, but in that statement, I basically told him, I've said, hey, I'm giving you credit for the things that you've done and you've accomplished. Whether I give a damn whether you accomplish them or not doesn't matter. I just need him to believe and to see that I'm recognizing his ego, right? He's not thinking of it like that, like ego, but I just need to feed his ego a little bit. Because when you feed the ego, you disarm it. It's imagine a bear trap or like whatever, or a trap. When you feed the ego, what you're doing is you're turning it off. Right? Temporarily, not permanently, because if you developed a friendship with this person or if there was a long relationship, aka like the guy who's going to coach him in our program, sucks for that dude. But as a closer, you don't have to fulfill. You just have to close, right? So with a guy like this, what's going to happen I'm disarming his ego, right? And I'm disarming the ego by feeding the ego very gently. I don't do it a lot. I don't. Now you can't overdo it. You can't be like, you're so awesome, because then that starts to come from a place of weirdness, neediness. You start overcompensating, and really sophisticated or market aware product aware buyers like will see through that shit. They're like, no, dude, come on, I know what you're doing. But what I want to do is do it subtly and quickly enough and gently enough where it just knocks the ego out the way, because then the ego doesn't get triggered. Because what the ego oftentimes is it's a defense mechanism, right? And the ego can get triggered. So the prospect, if I don't recognize the ego very quickly, the ego will be like, hey, you're not recognizing me. You don't think I'm this person. You think I'm some dude who needs help. So boom, ego gets triggered, and now your call becomes more difficult. But what I want to do is I want to wipe the ego off the table entirely, like fully wipe that shit off so they can't use it again. And again, the way I do that is by give and take. Another one is like push pull. So I kind of push at them, which I'm going to explain to you more when it comes to framing. We do that later on. That's a little different than give and take. But I'm going to push them, and then I'm going to pull back. Right, and I'll explain more again about what that is. So I want to give you another example of this. I kind of already did it, but let's say we're talking about an ecomm offer, right? Some guy's working a 9 to 5. Let's say some dude is he's a dentist. He hates dentistry. He's working so many hours. He's done a lot. He's accomplished. He's like has a beautiful wife and kids, and he's like doing everything. But he's like, this is not for me. I want to build an ecomm business on the side and get it to 8 to 10K per month, right? And he's talking with a lot of ego. He's kind of like, yeah, man, I'm doing well. It's just for some reason, I don't know, the market doesn't want us to succeed. Bullshit. But he's like, I don't want to, I'm struggling for these reasons that are not caused by me. What I'm going to do is, here's how it would sound. Listen to what I do in terms of the give and take. Well, brother, it's because it's interesting that you've already made money as a dentist. That's the interesting part. You clearly understand how to make money. Like, you understand how to serve clients. You understand how to build and grow a business to whatever extent, because you're running the clinic, and it seems like you've done pretty well at that. But for some reason with ecom, there is something clearly holding you back, like some kind of bottleneck that's preventing you guys from just growing and scaling. And I don't think it's the market, because the market's the same for everybody essentially, and other people are making money with it, right? Like, we do have people who are having success, and I don't think it's because you're not capable, because you clearly are a very capable individual. There's me validating the ego so it doesn't get triggered. You're clearly a very capable individual. So what's going on there that you're seeing on your end outside of just the hand of God, because it's not that. It's not magic. Like, what's holding you back from really growing things faster, brother? Let's talk about it. I'm here to help. Boom. There we go. Ego diffused. Now we get a real answer. We get a better answer without the mask of the ego coming in and taking over. All right, we're going to talk about framing. Before I go into framing, I'll make this really fast. We got a school community, and it's free, and there's a crazy amount of value. And by value, I don't mean corny value. Everybody on YouTube is like, I have value, check out my free course. No, not saying that. What I'm telling you is we have trainings in our school community that I'm giving away for free, full-length trainings where I show my calls, like real calls that I had on the dating offer as an example. I show those calls. I give you all my objection handling protocols. I give you my protocols on leadership. I give you my scripting on how we run discovery very efficiently and knock shit out in under like 30 minutes on our calls. Not all of our calls, but a lot of them we do. The same stuff that I give to the guys who are in our protocols training program that they pay thousands for, we give a version of that away completely for free. Not like some little PDF. It's a full course with hours and hours and hours of training. Nothing held back. Literally, we're not holding anything back. We just don't give everything away because the rest of there's just too much, right? So I'm not going to make 500 modules. So we're not holding anything back. We just give everything away for free within reason, okay? So if you want to watch that stuff and learn from it and make way more money now, like you can genuinely start making, I'd say realistically, an extra 2 to 4K in commissions from the free stuff we've got. If you want to completely double and change your life 15K plus, I mean, you probably got to pay for mentorship and coaching, but I'm not selling you that here. Just check out the free community. It's linked below. If I like you, if my team likes you, what we're getting from you in your application, we'll approve it. We'll let you in, and then you can join and learn from us. Okay. We even do free trainings on Thursdays where you come in and role play, practice objections. I break down your sales game with you. Really powerful stuff. Okay. That's it. It's free. The link is below for the YouTube video. Below the YouTube video. Let's go back to framing. So understand framing. Framing is really important. What does a frame mean? And what do I mean when I say frame? It's a word I use a lot. So the frame is the underlying agreed upon terms of the conversation, which means, AKA, someone's leading, someone's following. right? Someone is in a position of dominance, someone's in a position of surrender. And it doesn't nothing weird when I say dominance, but I think you know what I mean. There's one person who's leading, someone's following. That's what I call frame. Someone's here because they need help, someone is here to offer a solution, aka you and the prospect, or the prospect and then you get what I mean. That's the frame. So it's very important because I'm going to train you on frame, but you understand what a frame is. So when I say a frame, the person's trying to break the frame, what I'm saying is they're trying to break the underlying agreed upon terms of the conversation. If you work with a coach, what's the frame? The expert and the person who is the mentee, or the person being mentored, right? There's the expert, the person who has the knowledge, and the person who is the student, right? That's the frame. It's the underlying subconscious, or sometimes they verbalize it, but generally it's an underlying agreed upon term. It's the terms that are agreed upon within, again, this weird error is coming up. I hope I'm still here. I think I am. It's the terms that are agreed upon within the conversation. That's what a frame is, okay? Now, what we can't have on a call is we can't have the prospect breaking frames. That's really important. This is where you begin to lose your calls. You can't have the prospect breaking frame. If the prospect breaks frame, that means that your sales call is now operating under a different set of rules. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a really good example of this. When you open a sales call, generally this is how I open my sales calls and how I teach our guys to open them. Let's keep going with the dating offer. I haven't taught on that a while on YouTube, so I think this call will stick with dating primarily. So let's say I would open the call like this. Yo, what's up, John? How you doing? Some basic, cool, where are you at? I'm in Canada. Oh, very cool. Blah, blah, blah. Get all that basic stuff out the way. Cool, man. So what we do here really is three things. I want to find out more about what you need when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, and just kind of creating the life that you want with the women you want, the partner you want. And then two, we'll look at a process that we can set up and put in place for you to make that happen as quickly as possible. And then three, if you feel like that process is a good fit, we'll talk investment and talk kind of next steps and go from there. How do you feel? Or does that sound good for you? They say yes, cool, all good. And then next steps, right? Next steps would be go into, so when it comes to dating, where do you want to be? Like, what are you looking for specifically? Tell me where you want to be in your dating life. What may happen then, here's where it gets weird. Maybe the prospect would say, and I've rarely gotten this, but sometimes they'll say, could we jump to talking about your program? I just came to know the pricing. Okay, let's say they start with that. That's a little bit too fast for most people, but sometimes people will start with that. What happens now is very important. If I just jump in and say, cool, I'll get into that, or I very weakly try to handle it and then just go into it, what's happening is I'm allowing the prospect to break the frame of I'm the leader on the call. You see what I mean? If I allow them to get away with that, I'm allowing the prospect to actively break the frame of I'm leading the call and I'm controlling what happens next. So I can't allow that to happen because the frame of the call has to be under my terms. Because if it's not under my terms, it sounds a little bit petty, but it's actually important. If it's not under my terms, I don't have leverage to then lead them and help them get to where they need to be. And statistically, my chance of getting cash from them on the call or even in a follow-up lowers because they're not playing the game with me. Sales is a game. It's a game of solution and someone who needs a solution. It's a game of problem solver and someone who has a problem. And if they're not operating under that frame with me and they try to break it, no one's doing anyone any favors. They're not doing themselves a favor. I'm not doing them a favor. And I don't know what's in their mind. Maybe I could make the argument and say, hey, maybe they're the kind of person who literally would just be fine with that and doesn't need the whole sales call. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know that. So what I have to do is follow protocol, right? AKA quantum level protocols. That's the name of our training program. So we can't have the prospect breaking frames, right? And it's very important because there's a couple different frames people try to break. Like things, as an example, the frame I need them to have is things are not working as well as I'd like or as well as they could be. That's a frame I need the prospect to have and admit to. And if they try to break that frame, that's a problem. I can't have that on my calls. Another one would be, I need help. And if I continue this way, I will not see results at all or quickly. That's another frame that I need to maintain on a sales call. I do not want the prospect to break that frame. Another one would be, I came here because I want a solution, right? So that's a frame that I want on a call. So all of our questions are designed to back and create more and more of these frames, these strong frames, right? So a question like, a transition question, the commitment question. So I'm just curious, do you feel like if you keep doing things this way in your dating life, not really taking action, not putting yourself out there, not communicating the way you should be, and I say that respectfully, of course, do you feel like you're going to see the results that you want as quickly as you'd want them? Or do you feel like you're going to need to make some small changes, or how do you feel? That question, I need them to say yes. I can't have them say, well, With time, I think that I would be able to change things around. No, the moment they do that, they just broke a frame. And that's egoic. They just broke a frame. So I can't let that happen. So when the prospect breaks a frame, what you need to do is handle it and not let it go. Right? That's important. That's the key part of this training. When the prospect breaks frame, you have to handle it. You cannot just let it go. So as an example, let's say going back to dating offer, the prospect says, and they tell me this, and something that is working well, by the way, is I'm getting lots of dates. Here's my response: yeah, that's cool, brother. It seems like you're putting some work in, which is really good. But to be honest, like, if the dates aren't, women that are very quality, women that you want to spend time with and really build a life with, whichever one of those women, I'd say you're not getting results at all. Because at the end of the day, like, more dates, that doesn't matter. To be honest, what matters is putting yourself in a position to succeed with women, and women that you actually want to build a life with. So tell me what's missing. Why are they not quality? Do you see what I did? I completely ignore. I don't ignore. I address and move on from, give ground and then pull back. Remember earlier we talked about the how in terms of handling the ego. I gave ground and then I pulled back. The push and the pull. So I pushed him and pulled. I give ground. Hey, I get you. You put in some work. I didn't say you're doing well. I would not say that, because that's not the frame I want to have on the call. I'll never say they're doing well. I see you're putting in some work. That's very non good or bad. You just are putting in work. Cool. I'm happy you're putting in work. But at the same time, you're putting in work and getting no results. So now I've reframed them doing well, right? Where they said I'm getting dates, as actually not doing well. There's the frame. There's me creating my own frame and having the right frame. And then I need them to agree with it. And then the statement of, to be honest, it doesn't even count as results because they were not quality women. They're not people you want to spend your life with, So does that make sense, man? He'd probably realistically been in this situation many times. They'll be like, well, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's hard. Yeah, I know it's hard, man. So what's holding you back? Boom. Now I win. Because now they're back into, what's the frame? I have a problem. I need help. And if I continue this way, I'm not going to see results, or things are not working as well as I'd like. There we go. This is the game. This is how you win at sales. This is how you're going to have success. There's no one that I've seen teaching it this way. And we're going to keep digging into trainings that are very advanced, very technical, that are going to make you a whole bunch of money. And it's because ultimately what I want to do is teach you how to respect the game. I want to teach you how to respect the game fully and how to make the most amount of money for yourself and for your family. And again, that only happens when you have full respect for the game and you have full respect for the process of sales and this game that we're playing here. Okay, that's it. Hope you're doing well. Keep making money, keep pushing. If you need anything, again, you can always join our school community, which is completely free, absolutely free to join. And we have so much value. So it's not like, hey, join this little school community. It's get the value in terms of the training, actually, and all these things I'm talking about. We go deeper on them inside of our school program, quantum level. And then if you need something, you can always reach out on Instagram, hit me up. My Instagram is realtimray, or the real Tim Ray, or to real Tim Ray, one of the two. It's down below in the description. Goodbye. Take care. Make some money and set your family free. Set yourself free. Okay, I'll see you on the next one.